Magandang araw, maayong adlaw, good day. This is John Brady. I was one of the presenters at the 40th Annual Convention for the Philippine Association of Water Districts in Pasay, Philippines, February 2019. In my presentation, I talked about a project that was designed to recruit American organizations to commit resources to the Philippine water sector. I also talked about the nationwide survey of water districts, which is part of this overall project. This video is a summary of the survey results. As I described in my talk at the convention, I was given the opportunity to meet Administrator Jesse Lapus of the local Water Utilities Administration, and he was kind enough to speak with me about my volunteer work. I left that meeting with the impression of a leader with a clear vision of bringing safe, reliable drinking water to all Filipinos, even deep into the rural provinces. About a month after my meeting with the administrator, he made an announcement of a major initiative to improve the water quality and drinking water supplies throughout the Philippines. The administrator said, "Safe water is life, and access to it is the right of every Filipino." Well, that was enough for us, and we got to work. First, a meeting with high-level management of the American Waterworks Association was coordinated to discuss ideas of how to support the administrator's plan. The general consensus of the meeting was that AWWA wanted to help but needed more information on how. This led us to contact Director Dora Gamboa of the Maynilad Water Academy, who originally introduced me to the administrator. Director Gamboa described her prior work in exploring the idea of establishing a water system operator certification program in the Philippines, as well as related training programs. We also discussed the need to not only invest in infrastructure to further develop the Philippine water sector, but we also needed to invest in people too. The resulting collaboration led to the nationwide survey of water districts. Questions were developed and circulated for input to the Maynilad Water Academy, the American Waterworks Association, as well as the U.S. Embassy in Manila and the University of San Carlos in Cebu. So, who did we survey? The most experienced professionals that we could find, the water district general managers. We focused on water districts specifically because they were locally governed, federally regulated, they have a vibrant professional association, and most importantly, they are required to charge the full cost of service to their customers. In other words, they're required to operate sustainable operations. We know that the knowledge, experience, and highly qualified views of these professionals will serve as a solid foundation upon which the future of the Philippine water sector can be built. So who responded to the survey? First, I'm happy to report that 98 districts out of about 500 districts nationwide responded to our survey. This is higher than our target of 81 districts, which is designed to produce a 95% confidence interval with a plus or minus 10% error rate. In the Philippines, water districts are classified into one of four classifications. First, they're rated based on the number of service connections. Then, certain operational and financial performance indicators are considered. And then, the classifications are adjusted accordingly. Basically, the A and B classifications are for larger and more highly developed districts, while the C and D classifications are for smaller districts that are not as developed as their larger counterparts. In our survey, we see that 80% are C and D districts. A review of the service connection data collected from our survey shows that we have an excellent range of service connections. However, when you look at the water production, we see a very different graph. We see that the water production drops very quickly as the districts get smaller. This suggests inadequate sources of supply or inadequate distribution infrastructure for the smaller districts. When you look at the source of water supply, Most commonly used is groundwater only, followed by groundwater and surface water together, followed by groundwater, surface water, and a third-party concessionaire. In our survey, we asked about the recruitment of qualified water system operators. In general, if an organization has a need for a highly skilled technician to perform a vital function, and there are numerous qualified candidates available, that organization will typically use a number of screening techniques to find the most qualified candidate. However, if the number of qualified candidates is very low or non-existent, then the focus of the recruitment shifts to finding someone that can be trained and is willing to do the job. First, we asked about the screening methods typically used when there are plenty of qualified candidates to select from, namely the written test, practical hands-on test, and providing prior training records. The results shows us that more than half of the districts responding to our survey did not use these techniques. This finding appears to be supported by our next question. We asked the districts to rate the difficulty of recruiting qualified water system operators from 0 to 100, with 100 being most difficult. In the graph that you see before you, the scores were grouped as follows: 0 to 20, very easy; 20 to 40, easy; 40 to 60, neutral; 60 to 80, difficult; and 80 to 100, very difficult. This graph is a horizontal stacked bar chart, where the bar graph is centered about the neutral group of scores, which is the gray section of the bar graph. Everything to the right indicates recruitment is easy. Everything to the left indicates recruitment is difficult. The results show that 62.6% of those surveyed found recruitment of qualified water operators as difficult or very difficult. The next series of questions were about training method. We asked about 6 different training methods in 2 different ways. First, we asked about the percentage of training time that the districts spent on each training method. We then asked the districts to rank the training methods. The 2 most highly ranked and commonly used training methods included on-the-job training, closely followed by off-site training seminars. Over 50% of the districts surveyed used on-the-job training through committing between 60 and 100% of all their training time to this method. Also, about 50% of the water districts surveyed ranked this method as number 1. Off-site training seminars also had over 50% of the districts surveyed committing to between 60 and 100% of all their training time to this method. However, only 31.3% of the surveyed water districts ranked this method as number 1. The 2 lowest ranked training methods were online training during working hours and online training after working hours. Over 70% of the water districts surveyed use online training during working hours through committing between 0 and 20% of all training time to this training method. However, the ranking shows that over 36% rank this option as number 5 and only 20.8% as the lowest ranking of 6. Similarly, over 70% of the water districts surveyed use online training after working hours through committing between 0 and 20% of all training time to this method. 44.7% of the water districts surveyed ranked this option as dead last. A side note is that the most common comment submitted by the water districts stated that the cost is a major consideration in training. The last question asked was about the interest level in a National Water Operator Certification Program. The districts were asked to rank their interest level between 0 and 100, with 100 being the highest level of support. The districts were also asked to estimate how their customers, regulators, and employees would rank a national certification program as well. In the graph you see before you, the scores were grouped as follows: 0 to 20, strongly disagree with the program; 20 to 40, disagree; 40 to 60, a neutral position; 60 to 80, agree; 80 to 100, strongly agree. The graph is a horizontal stacked bar chart, where the bar graph is centered about the neutral group of scores, which is the gray section of the bar graph. Everything to the right is in support, everything to the left is not in support. The results indicate an overwhelming support for a national program, with the district showing 78.8% support or strongly support of such a program. From the estimates of the customer, regulator, and employee perspectives, well over 80% support or strongly support such a program. A detailed report documenting the entire survey is currently under development and will be issued shortly. However, we do have some preliminary conclusions that we'd like to share with you. First, recruitment is considered difficult by over 60% of those responding to our survey. To us, this finding suggests a need for an effective training program either before or after hiring. We also found training needs to be cost-effective, particularly at the smaller water districts. Also, we found online training appears to be a very low priority with the water districts. However, in our view, this may actually represent a potential opportunity to enhance cost-effective training if it can be re-engineered to address the concerns of the water districts. And finally, there appears to be a very strong support for a national water operator certification program. Almost 80% of the districts surveyed support or strongly support such a program. Also, of the people responding to this question, 60 left comments, and all were positive and supportive of the idea. Ladies and gentlemen, my colleagues, my friends, salamat po for your kind attention. I want to thank in particular those of you that shared your knowledge and your experience with us. We promise to put forth our very best efforts to put this valuable information to good use. I also want to thank Director Rodora Gamboa of the Maynilad Water Academy for her guidance and assistance on this project. This project is a continuation of her prior work. Her insight and assistance in reaching out to the water districts was absolutely critical to the successful outcome of this survey. I also thank Mr. Charlie Anderson, Miss Barbara Martin, and Mr. Chad Weichel of the American Waterworks Association for their detailed comments on the survey question design. I also thank Dr. Evelyn Tabuada of the University of San Carlos and Miss Baby Montesines of the U.S. Embassy in Manila for their support and encouragement on the project. And finally, I thank Administrator Jesse Lapus for taking action to embark on this important initiative to bring safe, reliable drinking water to all Filipinos. Again, salamat po for your kind attention. I wish you, your family, and your community the very best.